Hey, what's up guys? In this video, I'm going to show you how to simplify square roots or radicals. And it's not using a calculator, but we are going to find the exact answer and leave our answers in radical form. So one method to simplify radicals you can use is prime factorization. We need to break down the numbers so we can find the product of prime numbers, and then I'll show you guys what to do with those prime numbers. So the example I have is the square root of 108. First of all, it's a very good idea if you check that the number, which is the radicand, the number inside of the radical, if it's a perfect square number, well, we know that perfect square numbers, they do have a square root, so you go ahead and find the square root of that number. But 108 is not a perfect square number, and just to give you guys a little bit of review, the number 25 is a perfect square number because the square root of 25 is 5. And there's many more perfect square numbers, but 108 is not a perfect square number, so we're going to have to break down the number. And you start by finding two numbers that will multiply to 108. So you're looking for the product of two numbers that will give you 108. And it can be any numbers, but as long as they multiply to 108, you can use those numbers. So I am thinking of 2 and 54. So this one is going to be 108. The 54, you can break it down, and that's going to be 9 times 6 is 54. If you go back to the 2, well, 2 is a prime number because only 1 times 2 will give you 2. So you're not going to break down the number for 2 to be 1 times 2. We don't want to use the 1, but if it's a prime number, you just leave it as it is. These two numbers are not prime, so we're going to have to break down those numbers. 9, you can break it down by multiplying 3 times 3, and 6, you can multiply 2 times 3. So once you have those numbers, you guys have prime numbers. 2 and 3 are prime numbers because 3, the only numbers that multiply to 3 is 1 times 3, and we just mentioned 1 times 2 are the only option you have to get 2. So we are going to bring down the radical or the square root. And using those prime numbers, you are going to look for pairs. So notice that I can make a pair of 3's right here. And also I can make a pair of 2's using this number 2 up here. And the one down here next to the 3, it's another 2. So we have one pair of 3's and one pair of 2's. So outside of the radical, you're going to write down those numbers. Any number that has a pair, they go outside of the square root or the radical, and you're going to multiply. But since we only have one pair of each number, I'm just going to write down the number once. So I'm going to put the 3 and multiply by the 2. Once again, I'm going to repeat that so you guys are sure how many times you write down the number. So since you have a pair of 3's, only one pair, you just use 1 3 outside, and we have one pair of 2's. So you guys only use 1 2. If you have, let's say, 2 pairs of number 3's, you're going to put 2 3's outside of the radical. But right now we just have 1. Inside of the radical, we have this. We will have this number, the number with no pair. So the 3 is going to be inside of the radical. You put it here, and then you guys will multiply 3 times 2 outside. That's going to be 6. And we have the square root of 3, and you guys cannot do anything else. Keep in mind that these two numbers are multiplying 6 times the square root of 3, but the answer in radical form, which is an exact answer, is 6 square root of 3. So the next example I'm going to show you is when you are multiplying two different radicals, and you might have a number outside of the radical and obviously a number inside of the radical. So here we use the product property when you are going to simplify radicals. What is the product property? Well, it's when you can multiply the numbers inside of the radical. So that's what we're multiplying. The product property says that you can multiply those. And the numbers outside of the radical, you can also multiply. So I'm going to take the numbers outside first. So the 4 times the 3, I'm going to put those outside here, 4 times 3. I'm going to keep the same radical, just 1, and then I'm going to multiply the 3 inside of the radical times the other number 18, again inside of the radical. So when you simplify, when you guys multiply those numbers, I get a 12 outside the radical, and inside I get 54. Notice the number inside of the radical is not a perfect square number, so we're going to have to simplify this by using prime factorization. The one outside is going to stay the same, the 12, so you're going to keep it in your answer. But the 54, let's find two numbers that multiply to 54. That's going to be 9 times 6. The 9 will be 3 times 3, and the 6 will be 2 times 3. I can make a pair, so I do have one pair of 3's, and I cannot make a pair with the 2 here, and this 3 here cannot have a pair, doesn't have a pair. We don't have another 3 to make a pair with that number. So my radical, I'm going to keep it here, is going to be with the 12. Make sure you guys bring it down. Notice the 12, you bring it down here, but you're going to multiply by the pair that we have, which is one pair of 3, so you put a 3. So I'm going to keep the 3 here next to the 12, and I'm going to multiply. And inside of the radical, you guys have the 2 times the 3. Remember, we're multiplying those numbers. They don't have a pair, so we have those inside of the radical. So now you guys multiply the numbers outside. That's going to be 36, 12 times 3. And the number inside will be 6. So the answer in radical form, or the exact answer, when you guys multiply, let me just zoom out a little bit so you can see the multiplication. When you multiply 4 square root of 3 times 3 square root of 18 equals 36 square root of 6. Alright guys, so this concludes my video about simplifying radicals, and this is using the product property. So if you guys like my videos, you guys can click that like button. You can also subscribe to my channel. You can tell your friends about this channel as well if they need help in Algebra 1. So the only way you guys get good at math is by practicing. So make sure you guys practice, and I'll see you guys later.